Hello everyone. So I am doing a lot of rebranding these days, and I will be updating my YouTube channel in order to really express and show the different ways that I have grown and the ways that I have changed, and even the businesses that I have launched since I have started my YouTube video. I have fallen off with my YouTube channel, and I really want to update it because a lot of the things that I do or that are coming up require filming of some sort. So I will be including my community in on everything that I have going on and all that good stuff. So first, I wanted to talk about postpartum life. So I now have a 3-month-old in addition to having an 11-year-old and a 5-year-old. And it's definitely been interesting, to say the least, because this is my first daughter also. And so it's definitely been interesting, and this was my first home birth experience. And I noticed that a lot of the things that I've talked about that I have done since I have had my daughter have been things that people are like, oh, I didn't know you could do that. Oh, you know, my doctor never did that for me. And oh, well, next time I'm going to have a midwife because I didn't know that they did this and did that. So I'm going to be talking more about that a little bit today. And then I'll also have a luxury postpartum course for women who want to basically, you know, they know they're going to have their babies and they want to plan a peaceful experience after having the baby. And this is coming from someone who did have postpartum depression with my second child. And I learned so much about myself, and I learned so much about my community when that happened to me. It was very, very tough. And with me having another child, one of the things some people asked me was like, oh, are you scared of having postpartum depression again? And I kind of was like, no. And the reason I say no with such, I was like, no, I'm not even really worried about it. I'm not really even tripping off of it. There are certain things I'm going to put in place to ensure that, was mainly because I knew that I had a better support system. With postpartum depression, I mean, there are different things that can happen to you chemically, that will make you be depressed or cause depression. But a lot of those things come from a lack of support from your support system, which was very much the case when I had my son. I was kind of, not even kind of, I was definitely in a space where I had, one, I already had a child, right? And he was in school. And so there came all of the responsibilities of caring for him. And then I had another child. And just to be honest, it was like my partner had never had any kids, and he kind of hung me out to dry. Like, he didn't really know what to do. And instead of being like some new dads and like, oh, I gotta read this book and I gotta find out and I gotta be here and support my partner, that wasn't really, it was kind of like, oh, we had a baby, like, and then life just continues to normal. Well, for a woman, it never really goes back to normal, right? Because your body is going to change. Your mind literally chemically changes when you give birth. So to have those chemical changes, and then for your outer society to not support those changes as like you needing more support, you needing people to talk to outside of a kid all day. Like, that's why like a lot of stay-at-home moms get depressed. And it's because they're they don't, everybody kind of forgets about them. Like, oh, she had the baby, he's so cute, and then there's nobody. I knew that I had a much better support system. And even now, like, I can't even really say when I had my second child that as many people who have come to see me and see about me and my daughter were even there. Like, that really wasn't how that was. It was kind of like I had a baby and everybody thought he was cute, and I never really heard from people. Again, I was kind of out on my own, and that included the people nearby that were related to to my child. Really didn't get too much support from anyone. And so that was tough, on top of me trying to run a business. It was a lot. So I knew that I was in a different space, and I put different things in place to make sure that my experience wasn't bad. And so it hasn't been. With my other child, my postpartum depression did set in later, around 9 months old, him being 9 months old. But even then, it kind of like, it snowballed, basically. So I did a lot of different things this time, including living somewhere else. I mean, it was for my benefit. And I did a lot of things physically, which I will talk about in the class, like massage, chiropractic. I was consistent with my chiropractic this time. But another thing too, was the midwife that I chose this time. Totally different energy. Totally respected my body autonomy. Knew her stuff. I mean, no shade to the last midwife I had, but she was like younger than me and brand spanking new to the field. And I'm not saying that means that a person that is younger than me can't be a good healthcare professional. I say that I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is I don't feel like that person was a good fit for me because of what I needed at that time. And this time, the person that I got, she was like, she's old enough to be my grandmother. And I do feel like that level of wisdom, and she is a mother of 9. I felt like her experience was more well suited to what I needed this time around. So, I give thanks for having the right healthcare professional, but we will talk about that in the luxury postpartum course, which I will be launching this Cancer season. So please stay tuned and sign up for my newsletter, which I will drop information about in the comments and as well as in the description box when I post this to YouTube. Also, beginning next Monday, I will be having another astrology course. Now, this astrology course is going to be 3 weeks, 1 hour per week, so it doesn't overwhelm my students or me. Okay. And so we are gonna journey into astrology so you can know how to read your own chart and understand what it means when someone says somebody has a Sagittarius moon and somebody has a Venus in Taurus and things of that nature. I know a lot of times people are like, what in the heck are these people talking about? Well, not only will I teach you that in the class, but I will also teach you like what that means for you, for your relationships, for your family, all that kind of stuff, because there's just so much to be said about astrology. And I'll also talk personally about how it has helped me in the course, and I'll talk about it a little bit now. It has really helped me to understand my children's personalities. Even people that I have had in my cipher that were not so great for me, I can kind of understand where we went wrong by looking at their natal chart. I can be like, oh, so this is why. And usually, honestly, it's like miscommunication between the signs, because certain people with certain Mercury placements communicate differently from another person, which is very important when you're looking at getting into a relationship with someone. You kind of want to know their chart. Had I known some of the things then that I know now about astrology, I would have friendships, not even just relationships, like romantic relationships, like also like friendships. I would have moved a little different with some of the friendships that I've had in the past, but I didn't know better. But when you know better, you do better, okay? And then another part of what I will be discussing on the channel is mental and emotional wellness for women, particularly Black women, because there has been a lot of talk about this, and I've talked about it because I mean, you can look on my channel. I've done plenty of videos about some of the gaslighting and psychological and emotional abuse that a lot of influencers have inflicted upon Black women, not to mention societal things that have gone on that affect Black women primarily or exclusively. And this ties in to me talking about women's health, because if your mind isn't right, how are you going to be effective in any other parts of your life? You can't. I mean, even with postpartum depression, even with, normal situational depression, or other issues that, medical racism, so many things that affect us disproportionately, even like the maternal infant health issues that are primarily, I mean, we have the highest infant and maternal mortality rate in the United States, which is the country that has the highest infant and maternal mortality rate in the world. There are things that Black women need exclusively and primarily that we don't get from other spaces. So I will be talking about those things from a perspective of someone who went to an all-Black college and got a degree in women's studies. I've seen some things, I have experienced some things that only another sister is going to give it to you raw and give it to you real. And I'm going to talk about some of those things in addition to some of the things that I've talked about before on my channel about like relationships, because this seems to be a big hot topic that people are discussing, but they're leaving out the emotional abuse, the narcissistic abuse, the financial abuse that goes on that affect women, period. And no one, it's like everyone wants to talk about like leveling up and this and that, but no one wants to talk about some of the darker sides of that, like women getting left on cruises because so-and-so paid for your cruise, and then he's mad that you don't want to engage in certain activities that he wants to engage in, such as intercourse, and he leave you on a cruise. I saw a post about that not too long ago, so I will be talking about that as well, because I feel like psychological and mental health and the level of abuse that Black women especially are subject to that isn't discussed, it needs to be discussed. I've talked about it, but I think it needs to be talked about further, because the stories I hear and the things that I see, the things that are going on with Black women. And so yes, I will also be discussing that. We will be having a show on narcissists specifically, because I feel like people don't really talk about it, especially in the Black community. It's kind of like a funny word, like, oh, narcissist, ha. Like, no, these people are literally out here ruining people's lives, whole lives, their kids' lives, their wives' lives, their mama's lives. Like, some of these people are really unstable, and there needs to be more awareness about them so that they can get treatment. They really need to be removed from societal spaces where there are other mentally healthy people, because they're kind of like a bad apple and they spoil the bunch. But I will talk about mental health pieces, and I also will be having a counselor come in and talk about some of this stuff, so you're not just like, oh, who is she? What is she talking about? She ain't got no degree in social work. She not a psychologist. She not a psychiatrist. Well, we will have a counselor, a master's graduate level counselor, come in and talk about some of the things that I am talking about that primarily affect Black women. And again, I have talked about this before, but I know that I just have to get a little deeper on some of the subjects. A lot of these things are absolutely what they call PTSD, post-traumatic slavery syndrome disorder. That's where a lot of this stuff comes from. But if we don't know where it comes from and we don't cut it at the root, I mean, how does it ever get better? It doesn't. So I just wanted to update and give some information about how my YouTube channel is going to be making changes. We're going to be focusing on women's wellness, all levels. I'll be talking about herbs, of course. I'll be talking about birth. I'll be talking about postpartum wellness. We'll also talk about beauty products that I love and that are good for African American / Black skin. And I'll also be talking about astrology, because I always talk about astrology because it's one of my fortes. So please stay tuned and check out my YouTube channel, subscribe. And as I stated before, watch out for my luxury postpartum class. It will be a great gift for any of your friends who are having kids and maybe don't know the level of care that they need to take, and also have their family members know to take, to make sure that they have a blissful postpartum experience. We got to cut out, you know, Keisha coming home from the hospital and falling out and dying, or Keisha falling out or passing out at the hospital and having a blood clot and dying. A lot of this stuff is very, 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 very emotionally triggering to other people when you hear about it, but no one really knows what to do about it. And as someone who has been a doula before, I know a lot of the social determinants of health that are causing a lot of these deaths during pregnancy, after pregnancy, during labor even. And I'll also talk about some ways as well to have an easy birth, because I have had 2 very successful natural births with no tearing. Giving thanks for that. And so yeah, we're gonna be talking about astrology, women's wellness, and other things that people from the channel ask me to talk about. Of course, I'll always take video request options, you know, from any, or suggestions, I should say, not options. We just ended Mercury retrograde, so things are still a little wacky with my speech, missing mail, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, so excuse me on that, but we will be talking about women's wellness, astrology, and other things that particularly are important to Black millennial women, particularly because that is my audience. So thank you for tuning in, and I hope to see you all on YouTube. I'll be doing lives, we'll be doing money giveaways, all kinds of good stuff. So definitely check in and make sure you are subscribed to my newsletter and my channel so that you can get updates on all of the wonderful things that I'll be talking about. So thanks. I will see you guys on the flip side, as I usually say, and prosperity and wellness to everyone who is watching, unless, as one of my mentors says, they are wishing me otherwise, and may that otherwise be returned to them fully. Giving thanks, and I'll see you guys on my next video next week. Peace.